Why are we seeing a trend where more women are wanting men to be more like women or to be more in their feminine? Now, that may sound super controversial, and you may also be thinking, is that the trend or is there another trend happening? Well, the answer is yes and. That is a trend, and there are other trends happening where there's this uprising of women asking for men to be more empowered in their masculine, and they really want to see that. Today's video is not necessarily about that. It's more about this feminine quality and masculine quality in men, and how not only women, I'm witnessing women come to me and ask, how can I have my man be more in his feminine? Men are coming to me and asking, how can I be more in my feminine? I don't know if that's the right question to be asking. I think we have these, what we can know as dominant essences. Now, firstly, let me just go back a little. Masculinity and femininity is and resides within every single one of us. Every sentient being. It's a contrasted, energetic, expressive. What does that mean? It means that we are comprised of doing and being, going and flowing, active and passive. Like we're comprised of these different energies that make us who we are in the world. Two wings of the same bird, two sides of the same coin, so to speak. In addition to that, we've also, over many, many years, thousands, hundreds of thousands of years even, maybe more, we've assigned certain characteristics to mean more masculine and other characteristics to mean more feminine. In reality, fundamentally, when we strip it back, these are human qualities or human traits, human characteristics. So we want to understand that. And why do we compartmentalize, or why do we separate? For that, for ease of access, to help us understand, because we are dualistic beings as well. We're relational beings. That means there's not just at this 3D level, at this earthly level, we are in the physical material world. That doesn't mean that we're completely dictated and governed by that, but to some extent we are. So we look at masculinity and femininity. And again, there's this narrative, this discourse that's narrative of my man needs to be more in his feminine. But what are people really asking? When men are approaching me, or men are approaching this question of, I want to be more in my feminine, what does that mean? I often dig a little and I ask, where's that coming from? Who's told you that? Where have you heard it? Why do you believe that? What does it mean to you to be more in your feminine? So it's important we identify masculine characteristics and feminine characteristics. Or, another way to look at it, identify the qualities that we want more of and the qualities where we're probably too much in, so we're too almost singular in the way we are, and we have less range and we're less robust in our approach to life. And then begin to work at, okay, these are qualities that I wish to embody more of and to be more in the world. How do I do that? And why is that important to me? So that's really important to ask as well. But let's go back to this notion of, I want my man to be more masculine, or to be more in his feminine, or a man coming to me saying, I want to access my feminine more. Well, here's the thing. I believe that accessing a more balanced expression of self comes from a place of focusing on what we naturally are and the healthy aspects of that. So for example, we naturally are both masculine and feminine. And because of our culture, because of so many other variables, our upbringing, developmentally, how we've interpreted the world, how we've formed our belief systems, all of these factors, how we were treated as children, our attachment styles, how we learned to emotionally regulate ourselves, I'll get into this in a moment, it tells us we either need to be this to be in the in-group or that to be in the in-group. And there's a common narrative discourse at the moment around men tapping into their femininity. So when we go back to how we've formed this dominant expression in the world, I've given you some reasons to why that's maybe happened, some variables that have influenced us and impacted us in that way. But if we go a little deeper and we say, okay, well, why don't I work on healthy expression? That means I can't be extreme, I can't be completely singular, I have to ensure that my behavior is sustainable. It's honoring my needs. These are some guidelines you can follow as a beginning practice. Following my needs, I'm speaking my truth in a compassionate, open way. I'm considering others. So there's a balance of selfishness and selflessness, right? And I call that selfish selflessness. It's also known as enlightened self-interest. You're doing things for yourself, but you're also considering other people because you know the better human being that you are, the more healthy impact you're going to make on others as well. So we can start there. And we can look at that and say, okay, well, I understand where I've come from. Now, why don't I begin to cultivate healthier versions? I know what extreme behavior is. Why don't I begin to cultivate a healthier version of myself? Why don't I begin to cultivate healthier masculinity? What does that mean for me? Well, you get to discover that. I can list a heap of characteristics and give you different examples and dynamics. And I can bark at you, this is what masculinity is. But if you search for that yourself, you're going to feel more empowered. You're going to be clearer in who you are and what you really need in relationship and out of relationship, in intimacy and out of intimacy, in love and out of love. We're never really out of love. We just forget that we are. So, as children, traditionally, culturally, society hasn't really promoted the varied and robust expression of our emotional panel in men or in boys. You'll often hear, don't cry, only girls cry, be a man, be stronger. And it's not just about crying, and it's not about being leaky with our emotions, because that's not healthy either. But it's about having aptitude in our expression. But if that's been stunted at a critical age for absorbing information and forming our identity during our developmental years, being children, infants, toddlers, young children, adolescents, we are going to struggle to then emotionally regulate our expression as adults. Think about that for a moment. So if emotional expression is more promoted in women, in females, in young girls, and not in young boys, there's a disconnect there in how we express and connect. We all have a limbic system. We all have our ability to emote. It's part of who we are as being human. It's part of our effectiveness in the world. So when people are asking, I need to be more in my feminine, what does it really mean? What is it saying? A big part of it, not the whole picture, but a big part of it is about emotional expression, connecting emotionally, relating. People want connection, they want intimacy, they want understanding, they want reciprocity in being seen, valued, understood, being heard, being accepted, being respected, being appreciated. These are fundamental human needs. And if so many men haven't grown up in an environment where they can healthily express themselves, and they've only learned to express anger because that's acceptable, and even then it's usually repressed anger or misdirected anger, projected anger. It's not a healthy anger release that's conscious and aware and saying, I'm feeling anger right now, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to somatically move it through my body, I'm going to hit bags, I'm going to hit pillows, I'm going to primal scream, I'm going to release I'm not going to project it on other people, I'm going to regulate myself. We haven't been taught that. There's a massive disconnect, not so much in communication, but in how we relate. Now, we're always going to want others to relate to us based on what is familiar to us, based on what is relatable for us. So if we are accustomed to emotionally expressing, we are going to somewhat demand, but we're going to really want that from others. If others can't give that to us and they struggle with that, then there's going to be a disconnect. So do we really want men to be in their feminine, more in their feminine? Or do we all want to relate and experience reciprocity and deeper intimacy and connection and this sense of being seen and appreciated and respected and understood at a deeper level? And I would say it's the latter. It's got less to do with masculinity and femininity and more to do with how we show up in life to each other and to ourselves. And to be able to show up in life for someone else at that deep level of reciprocity and brilliance and magnetism, polarity, connection, sexual connection, emotional connection, that intimacy in relating, conscious union, sacred union. We must show up that way for ourselves. We must feel more whole, recognize our wholeness, have range in our emotional expression as part of that. Know who we are, know what our values, our highest values and morals are, and who we want to be, what our non-negotiables are in relating and in relationship. So just something to think about, do we really want our men to be more feminine? Or do we all want to connect at a deeper level? And is what is being asked of humanity here and now? I think we're ready for that next evolution, our next collective human leap. Power and blessings.